You've been texting someone, and suddenly out of nowhere the texts stop coming. The flow of conversations you once shared, the excitement of getting a message, the rush of anticipation, it all halts. You start to wonder why, what happened, and where things went wrong. Is it something you said? Did you overstep a boundary? Did he lose interest? It's natural to feel confused and, let's be honest, a bit frustrated. You can't help but replay the conversations in your mind, trying to find clues. Was there a sign? Is there something subtle that you missed? All of this uncertainty can leave you feeling anxious and wondering how to fix the situation. But here's the thing. You can do something about it before you start doubting yourself. Before you let those worries take over, let's take a moment to explore what's really going on first. Let's consider a few possibilities. People's behavior is often shaped by various factors, and relationships are no exception. When someone suddenly pulls away, it can stem from many reasons, not necessarily something you've done wrong. It could be that he's dealing with personal issues, or maybe something in his life is distracting him. It could even be that he's unsure about how to proceed and is retreating as a way to protect himself emotionally. It's important to remember that people are complex, and their actions are influenced by their unique circumstances. 8. But that doesn't mean you're powerless in this situation. In fact, how you respond to this sudden silence can make a significant difference. Instead of succumbing to the uncertainty, let's explore some steps you can take to handle the situation with confidence and grace. The first thing you should do is give him space. It might sound counterintuitive, but sometimes pulling back yourself can create the space he needs to process his feelings and figure things out. When we're anxious or uncertain, we often reach out for reassurance. But constantly texting or trying to get in touch can have the opposite effect, creating pressure and making him feel even more overwhelmed. Giving space doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you're respecting his need for time now while space is important. It's also essential to take a look at your own emotional state. It's easy to get caught up in a whirlwind of negative emotions when someone stops texting. You might start questioning your worth or wondering if something you did made him lose interest. The truth is, his actions are likely more about him than about you. People go through phases, and sometimes they need time to figure out their emotions. Instead of focusing on his behavior, focus on how you can stay grounded during this time. Take time for self-care and focus on your own well-being. Engage in activities that make you feel good about yourself, whether it's reading, spending time with friends, or pursuing a hobby. The more you center yourself, the less likely you are to spiral into self-doubt. Remember, your value doesn't depend on someone else's attention. You are whole and worthy just as you are once you've given him the space he needs and focused. On your own well-being, it's time to communicate. But communication is key. The way you approach the conversation matters. You don't want to bombard him with a series of messages asking why he stopped texting. Instead, send a calm and respectful message letting him know you've noticed the silence and are curious about how he's feeling. It's important to express that you're open to talking, but that you also respect his need for space. Here's an example of what you could say. Hey, I've noticed we haven't been texting as much lately, and I just wanted to check in. I understand if you're busy or need some time, but I'd love to hear how you're doing when you feel ready to talk. This message is calm, respectful, and doesn't come across as accusatory. It shows that you care about him, but also that you're not putting pressure on him now. There's something even more powerful you can do to ensure the best outcome. One of the most important aspects of relationships is emotional intelligence. When he does respond, be sure to listen carefully and without judgment. When someone opens up, it's not always in the way we expect. They might not immediately share what's going on, or they might give vague answers. Your role in that moment is to remain patient and understanding, encourage him to share, but don't push him often. When someone withdraws, it's because they're afraid of being vulnerable or they're unsure about the future. Your response can help him feel safe enough to open up. This doesn't mean you have to solve all his problems, but showing empathy and patience can create a supportive environment where he feels more comfortable being honest with you, and when that happens, you'll likely get a clearer picture of what's been going on in his mind. However, what if he doesn't respond at all? What if the silence continues and there's no explanation? This can be incredibly frustrating and painful, but sometimes you have to face the reality that not everyone is ready or willing to communicate. If that's the case, it's important to accept that and move on with grace. You cannot force someone to open up if they're not ready in situations like this. Self-respect is crucial. Don't chase after someone who isn't giving you the respect and attention you deserve. Your time and energy are valuable, and you deserve someone who is equally invested in the relationship. If his silence becomes a consistent pattern without explanation, it might be a sign that he's not the right match for you at this point. Your focus should shift back to yourself. Take care of your emotional health, and trust that the right person will show up when the time is right. There's no need to force something that isn't meant to be. Relationships should feel natural and balanced, not like a constant struggle. For attention to summarize, if he suddenly stops texting, don't panic. First, give him the space he needs, then focus on your own emotional well-being when you're ready. Approach him with a calm, respectful message, and show empathy if he opens up. If he continues to withdraw without explanation, consider moving on with dignity and self-respect. Above all, remember that you are deserving of someone who values you and is willing to invest in the relationship if you find yourself in a situation where you're unsure of what to do next. Always trust your intuition. You know yourself best. And your emotional health should always come first, no matter the outcome. Trust that this experience will help you grow, and that better things are ahead. Now that we've explored how to handle the initial silence, let's dive deeper into why men, in particular, may pull back in relationships. This isn't always about the relationship itself, but often about where they are in their own personal lives sometimes. When someone stops texting, it's because they're dealing with things you might not even be aware of. Men, in many cases, tend to withdraw when they feel overwhelmed, confused, or even stressed by external factors. For instance, it could be that he's going through a challenging time at work, or maybe something in his personal life is taking a toll on him. Sometimes, men feel pressure to appear strong and unaffected, which means they avoid reaching out for support when they need it. This can lead to them pulling away from others, including you, even though they might not want to. It's important to remember that this behavior doesn't necessarily reflect his feelings about you. Instead, it reflects where he is emotionally at that point in his life. It's also worth considering that men and women often have different emotional responses to situations. For example, men might not always open up in the same way women do. They may process their feelings internally and need time alone to figure things out. When a man pulls back, it can sometimes be a sign that he's trying to gain clarity on his emotions before he can engage in a more meaningful way. This doesn't mean that you should wait indefinitely for him to come around, but it helps to understand that his withdrawal might not be about you at all. If you can keep this perspective, you'll be less likely to take it personally and more likely to approach the situation with patience and understanding. Let's talk about another aspect that could be affecting the communication: his attachment style. Psychology teaches us that we all have different attachment styles, which are shaped by our early relationships and experiences. These attachment styles affect how we interact with others in romantic relationships. For example, have an anxious attachment style, which makes them crave constant communication and reassurance. If they don't get that reassurance, they may feel insecure and anxious. On the flip side, some people have an avoidant attachment style, which means they pull back when things start to feel too intense. If they feel overwhelmed or pressured, they might distance themselves, not out of lack of interest, but because they're trying to protect themselves from feeling too vulnerable. Recognizing these attachment styles can help you understand his behavior better. If he has an avoidant attachment style, his pulling away could be a coping mechanism for dealing with his emotions. This doesn't mean he doesn't care. It simply means he might need more space to feel comfortable and secure. It's also important to keep in mind that attachment styles can evolve over time, especially when someone is in a healthy, supportive relationship. Understanding attachment theory also gives you insight into how to communicate with someone who is pulling away. If you suspect that he might have an avoidant attachment style, it's crucial not to pressure him. Instead, give him the space he needs, but also let him know that you're there for him when he's ready to talk. Offering him emotional safety and reassurance without pushing him to Hard could eventually bring him back to a place where he feels comfortable engaging. But here's the thing: if the silence continues for an extended period, and it seems like he's not making any effort to reestablish communication, it might be time to face the harsh reality that he's no longer interested. While we all need space at times, a prolonged absence of effort can indicate that he's moved on or is not as invested in the relationship as you are. If this is the case, it's important to step back and reflect on what you need from a relationship. Do you want someone who values open communication and effort, or do you want to keep waiting for someone who may not feel the same way? It's okay to want the latter, but it's also okay to choose to walk away when you realize that waiting for someone who isn't fully invested isn't serving your best interests. One of the most powerful things you can do in this situation is to prioritize yourself. This is the moment to refocus on your goals, your passions, and your emotional health. If the situation leaves you feeling uncertain and hurt, it's okay to take a break from it. Sometimes stepping away from the situation will give you the perspective you need, and remember, every experience, whether it's good or bad, teaches us something valuable about ourselves and what we want in a partner. If this relationship ends or doesn't progress the way you hoped, you'll be in a better position to enter the next one with clearer boundaries and a stronger sense of self. One last piece of advice: don't settle for less than you deserve. If someone isn't treating you with the respect and attention you deserve, it's better to walk away and focus on finding someone who values you fully. Self-respect is the foundation of every healthy relationship, and it starts with you. Trust that the right person will come along when you least expect it, and they will appreciate your worth. So, what should you do when he suddenly stops texting? You give him space. Take care of your emotional health, and approach the situation with patience and understanding. You respect his need for time, but also make sure to communicate your feelings in a calm and respectful manner. But most importantly, you remember that your self-worth doesn't depend on someone else's attention. Keep growing, keep improving, and trust that the right person will come into your life when the time is right. In conclusion, relationships are about balance, communication, and mutual respect. If someone suddenly stops texting, don't panic. Take it one step at a time. Focus on what's within your control, and remember that you're deserving of someone who will invest in you fully. In the end, what's meant for you will never pass. You buy, and the best relationships are those that come from a place of mutual effort and respect.